Krishna, welcome. So guys, till a few more people join, let's all introduce ourselves, please. You may leave a comment on the chat section. This is Ravi and Shaila, couple from Bangalore. Hi Frank Rogers. How are you? Welcome to eSmith Best Launch. Hi, Nilima here from Bangalore. Hello. Hi, Gopal Krishna from Bangalore. Hi, guys. I'm Pradeep from London, England. Glad to be part of your event. Thank you so much, Pradeep. Good afternoon, beautiful people. Says Laura. Priya Srinivas, Bangalore. Puneet Jagadish says hello to everyone. He is also from Bangalore as well. Rajat says good evening. Rajat here from Delhi. Hi, Sumitra here from Bangalore. Hello, Sumitra. How are you? So guys, we'll be starting the session in around 2 to 3 minutes. Let's wait for a couple of minutes so that people would join. Well, I see Arun Gupta has joined. Hi, sir, welcome. Mudit Saxena, hello, hi. Hi, Nisha. Hi, Dr. Vijay Sarthi. Hi, Karthikeyan. Hi, Dipesh. Hi, Sunil, sir. How are you all doing? Welcome to East Meets West launch. Yes, hello. Hi, Snehashish. Hi, Chanda Thakur. Hi, Kirti. Welcome to the session. Nisha says hi to all. Hello and good evening from Snehashish. Okay, I see that Abhi Krishnan has joined. Manvita, hi guys, welcome. How are you guys? Okay, so without further ado, let's start, right? It's 6:01 now, so I'm gonna start. So first of all, a hearty welcome to all those who have joined for the East Meets West launch. So before we start, let me give you a few instructions, okay? So please make sure you put yourselves on mute. And whenever you want to raise a question or you want to comment, please do so in the chat box below. So for those of you who are not able to find chat option, it's right below your screen. When you click on more, you'll see the chat option, okay? Yeah, so guys, firstly, I'm Tani Varghese. I have already said that. And I work as a business development lead at Indian Leadership Academy. Okay. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you to the moderator for the day, Mr. Kaushik Mahapatra. So, talking about Mr. Kaushik, he has over 23 years of experience in L&D and corporates. He is the chief mentor of Indian Leadership Academy. He is an international trainer and a coach. He is also a leadership expert. He has inspired a lot of people. Last but not the least, he is an author of the book, Are We Leading? Also, he has been awarded with the prestigious Philippe Award for Community Leadership. Now, without further ado, over to you, Mr. Kaushik Mahapatra. Welcome.
Okay. Now it is unmuted. Thank you, Tani. Thank you, Tani, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you guys for joining in. I see around 41 participants already, and that's a good number. That's a great number. I really look forward to talk to you, to interact with you as a moderator for the next 1.5 hours. For some of you who are new to the concept of East meets West, all we're trying to do is to create an online network platform where we have leaders from various countries, being in one platform, discussing ideas, discussing suggestions, discussing things which are the latest trends or situations where we can always collectively find out solutions. That's the intent of doing East meets West. And what we do typically is we invite 4 speakers, 2 from East and 2 from West, right? And then we kind of make sure we do some brainstorming, we talk to them, we get ideas from them, and obviously, lovely audience, you can ask them questions. So throughout the time, I would urge you to be muted. We already have our 4 speakers, by the way. The first speaker of the day, let me introduce the speakers. The speakers can do this. And then, of course, the way we would conduct this, guys, is we'll have 2 speakers talk to you guys. Every speaker would have 15 minutes. In fact, after the 15 minutes, I will just do a gesture like this. And of course, that means that, the time is up. And of course, you can ask a lot of questions. So with that, we're privileged to have 4 powerful speakers, by the way. And the first speaker of the day is Frank Rogers. Frank, can you wave to everyone? Frank, okay. Frank, can you wave to everyone? Okay. Thank you, Frank. Thank you so much for joining in. I know I would introduce Frank a little later. Second speaker of the day. Frank is basically from Ireland, but he is from UK. That way, he stays in London. Okay, the second speaker of the day is Laura Dilettant. Okay, can we wave at Laura? Everyone say hi to Laura. Everyone say hi to Laura. Okay. By the way, is Laura there? I can see Laura now. Okay. Good. And Laura is an NLP practitioner. She's an expert on NLP. She's an author. She's a celebrity speaker. So we're going to talk to her today, and she's going to share her thoughts. Okay, the third speaker of the day is someone who's very close to me. His name is Pradeep Mistry. Pradeep Mistry, everyone say hello to Pradeep. Say hello to Pradeep. Pradeep has tuned in from London. He's an executive coach. He has got 3 decades of experience and he's going to share a lot of ideas today. Okay, and the fourth speaker of the day, some of you already know him. His name is Deepesh Chetri. Deepesh Chetri. Deepesh Chetri is a mindfulness coach. He's an NLP expert. He is a musician, by the way. He has played in 10 different countries. And it's a privilege to have you guys here in this East Meets West launch. And I'm going to interact with you guys as a moderator. I'm going to do a fair job in giving some time to the audience also so that we can make it more interactive. So with that, any guesses? What's the topic of the day? What's the topic of the day? Okay, people who know the topic can type the topic, and people who are super excited can type SE, in the chat box. Type SE, and I know you're really super excited and you're looking forward to it. Okay, Puneet says SE, Gopal says SE, Nisha says SE. Okay, Rajat says SE. Wonderful, guys, wonderful. Yes, Ravi, leading in challenging times is the topic. Okay, Shailesh says SE. By the way, if you're not typing SE, then probably you are in E. Only excited, not super excited. Or maybe you're not excited. Or you want to do something else on a Sunday evening. Remember, guys, I personally know all the speakers. So they are going to really make an impact. They're going to really make an impact. Okay. Priyaram says 3S and 3E. So super excited. I'm also super excited, guys, to meet all of you. Thank you for joining in from London, from a lot of people I see from India. I think I see some people from Australia. Okay, someone from US has joined. Okay, wonderful. With that, the topic for the day, guys, yes, it's a topic which is very apt, which is a topic which is where we all are going through. We all are going through these COVID times. We're already trying to cope up with COVID, and now that we are trying to find out ways, we need to understand a little more in terms of how can we equip ourselves to lead in these challenging times. Yes, we have found out our ways. But what can be done further? How do we make our life more colorful? Yes, we all now know that COVID is going to stay for a long time, right? Or maybe long time might be a short time, right? But having said that, we really need an expert opinion in terms of what people are doing around us, and what can we pick from our 4 speakers today. And you never know, right? That can be a way forward, right? When I would tell you my story, right? The moment lockdown started, I realized that, hey, I'm going through a bad phase. And the bad phase was due to the fact that my son was stuck in Spain. I think some of you know that my son, 14 years old son, plays for a Spanish club. He plays football. And I realized that I'm in India and then he's stuck there. And we had a tough time getting him here. I'm not saying India is safe or Spain is unsafe or vice versa. But in these times, it's always like the family has to be near. And that gives a lot of support. So somehow I got him. And that was not a great start, I would say, to my lockdown days. And then I just figured out what can be done, by the way. How can I lead? Yes, I've been asking people to lead. Now it's my time to showcase what can I do. And what I did, guys, is I completed a book in 45 days. And that's my gift for you guys today. People have joined. I'm going to give you at least first few chapters. Don't worry, I'm not writing that bad. At least something I tried. But having said that, these are my ways. I'm sure you have your own ways in terms of coping with COVID, and of course our master trainers, our mentors who are there, or the speakers, they have their own ways, and they're going to share a lot in terms of what can be done in future, and that's how we will have a question and answer session. and we will close the session. So everyone, okay? Everyone okay? Everyone, okay? You're okay? You do this. If you're okay, you do this. If you're not okay, do this. If you're not sure, do this. Keep doing this. Keep doing. By the way, guys, in the next 1.5 hours, we're going to have lots of fun, right? Whenever there is learning, there has to be fun, and vice versa, right? By the way, when we're done with 2 speakers, we're going to have something like a virtual cheers, right? Virtual cheers. We're going to have a mocktail party, by the way, a virtual mocktail party on a Sunday. How does that sound, guys? How does that sound? If it sounds great, just type bring it on. Just type BIO. Just type BIO. Just type thank you, Frank, for doing it. That's the cheers, right? Okay. Okay, just type BIO if you want that in the break time. Just type BIO. Just type BIO. Yes, Nilima says BIO. Ashish says BIO. Gopal says BIO. And then someone says from Dubai BIO. Okay, no problem. No problem. Good. More than 50 participants. And now it's the time to call someone who's our first speaker. In fact, she's got so many accolades. She's a very, very close friend of one of our master trainers who works for Indian Leadership Academy. She's a celebrity speaker. She's an NLP expert. For some of you who's new to NLP, NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and it's all about changing your mental pathways so that you can have better patterns. You can have better linguistic skills, and obviously you can improve your senses, and that way you can grow personally and professionally. So she's an expert, and of course she's an author. She's a bestseller author, and she has actually tuned in she's from Finland, but she's tuned in from Amsterdam, and she's none other than Laura Deliton. Let's clap for Laura, guys. Let's clap for Laura. Let's clap for Laura. Let's clap for Laura. Wonderful. Laura, all yours. So
thank you very much.
Can you? I'm going to do this by.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very, very much for this honor. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. I'm from, like you said, I'm from Finland. My name is Laura, and I live in the Netherlands. It is gorgeous here. It is gorgeous. The spring has been amazing. So we've been very lucky under the conditions of the COVID-19, the weather is gorgeous. So we thank God for that. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the honor, and thank you for watching this. So the introduction was amazing. I appreciate that. My coaching, so I'm a coach, as well as I also have a day job. I have a pretty cool day job. I work at the European Space Agency, which is the European equivalent to NASA. So ESA, but that's a different kind of career. So I have that, and then I have the coaching. So basically, like you said, I'm an NLP licensed practitioner, and my coaching stands for kind of when we have to take 100% responsibility for our life, no matter what happened. I have an abusive past, childhood, and gone through that, gone through the treatment of the PTSD, gone through that, and then I'm now pushing other women, men also, but women are my target client audience. But at the times of this pandemic, obviously we help everybody. To no matter what is going on in our life, in the past or in the present, we have to take 100% responsibility. And this couldn't be more true now during this global pandemic of COVID-19. We can easily go into the pit of feeling sorry for ourselves, even though we know everybody is in the same situation. Of course, it's different depending which country we are in, whether we have a home or not. Whether we're alone, whether we have a family, a lot of things play a role, of course. But in the end of the day, like for everything else, we have to take responsibility for our life, because otherwise it's a waste of our life. I wasted years, if not decades, of feeling sorry for myself, what happened in the past, and didn't do anything until I woke up, so to speak, and started taking action of healing myself, and then getting trained to help others. I contracted the COVID-19 myself It was in mid-March, just when the Netherlands started going into lockdown. Netherlands lockdown was like intellectual kind of lockdown in terms of we had freedom of movement, not as like in India, for example, it was very, very close. But here was a little bit calmer. I became very sick. I was alone. I have a son. He's just gone to his father, and then I became very sick. So I was stuck in my apartment, stuck, so to speak. Again, this was a huge lesson. But because of it's contagious, I couldn't move and I couldn't receive guests. And I had the fever for 4 weeks, pressure on my chest, difficult of breathing, all the symptoms. So that was a really good time of really coming back to the basics. And now, having recovered, having had my friends deliver food outside my door and giving me smiles, and I couldn't see my son for 5 weeks, I don't take one more breath for granted anymore, or one more second with my child for granted anymore. So it was a huge lesson on top of all of this. So after that, after recovery, I always exercise a lot. I like running. 2 weeks after recovering, I started training hard, physical exercise, hard. And I included other people. And I didn't realize at the time how empowering and important it is. So I asked my colleagues at the space agency who would like to join this kind of fitness challenge. We do it every day for 30 days. And it's incredible how people, powerful people, rocket scientists, they're changing the world. But that goes to show you that everybody needs support. Everybody wants to be included, especially at these kind of times. So we pushed, and it's just one question: how is it going today? And then if somebody didn't do it, or just do it tomorrow, keep going. And that's so important. It seems like a small thing, but it's huge. So we need to kind of, this is the kind of empowerment I'm talking about, is that, and especially the strong ones, when we think like, he must be doing fine, he's got kids, he's got wife or husband, he's successful, he looks so strong, he's a leader, so he probably doesn't need checking on or her, but they do, everybody do. So that's very, very important. We have to just keep on checking on each other. And I knew when I was sick myself, and I'm so-called pretty strong person, I wasn't strong, and I appreciated everybody checking on me as well. So this is one, I think this is a very big thing. And that's kind of leadership. For me, that's really leadership, when we realize that somebody comes in our mind and then we take action on that. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to cost money, or it can, but it doesn't have to. It's just a phone call or a message, or would you like to be included? Because as our big teacher, Tony Robbins, says, the main fear all of us, all the people have, is that we are not enough, and therefore we won't be loved. So everybody wants love. Everybody wants love. So this is my main message. And this again comes back to this kind of victim mentality, because now it's so easy to feel sorry for ourselves, especially if we're sick, we can't see our friends, we can't hug our friends, we can't go out, restrictions, we can't travel. And then all it takes really is just to tell your neighbor or your friend or somebody on the street, like, you got this. You're not alone. Let's do it together. So it doesn't take huge crowds, especially at this moment, because we can't come together physically. So that's my main message for leading. I can't hear you.
Okay, so I was actually talking to mute. So thank you, Laura, for that wonderful message. Thank you for that wonderful message. And since we have a lot of time for some questions, I would say let's take a couple of questions. Yes, it's a 15-minute slot for one speaker. So we'll take a couple of questions, and then we will do the next one.
Thank you.
The next one. But thank you, Laura. I think the message, which is all about spreading love, it doesn't matter, right? East or west, right? We are all the same, right? It doesn't matter where did the virus come from, right? I know there are a lot of stories there. Right? It doesn't matter. Now is the time where we have to get into solution mode, right? Enough of pointing fingers on each other. Enough of pointing fingers on each other. So we need to spread the love. Okay, can we have the first question for Laura? Okay, I think the first question. So, what did you learn the most during the COVID-19 crisis?
So I
Questions.
personally, that first of all, the fact that I won't take anything for granted anymore. I won't take next breath, next moment for granted. Just live even more full on than before. But more generally, I learned that people are very, very, people want to help. It was wonderful. I received flowers or visits or would you need some food, or it's incredible how much people wanted to help. Not just me, but I also saw it on posters and in a community. I think it's beautiful. People come together in a beautiful way. This is such a blessing. It is a tragedy, but it's a huge blessing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, we have a second question. Let me read out this question. How COVID-19 experience have changed you as a person, and what personality traits, by the way, I know the question keeps moving, what personality traits have you changed in yourselves? Wonderful question. Thanks for asking the question.
Personal traits. Yeah, more, again, the appreciation for life. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, that you understand this child, he's there now, be with him, and then the next moment, if I have that moment, be with the next person, and the emotions being even stronger. I'm expressing my emotions. I don't know if it's tiring for people around me, but I do it nevertheless. If I love somebody, I'm gonna tell them.
Very good. Thank you so much.
The next moment, we have to say it now.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura. You are very quick in answering questions. I love that. But here comes the third question, and the third question is, how easy or difficult was it to come out of the emotional trauma post-COVID?
Yeah, it was a bit challenging. Yeah, it was a bit.
Doesn't matter whether maybe
time. At the same time, the gratitude was huge, and I recovered just in time for my child's 7th birthday. So the gratitude was just the first thing in my mind. But it was, it's true, it was pretty tough to come out of it. And then also to understand that now I can actually go outside. I felt like a zombie going outside after all those weeks inside.
Okay, that's so nice. That's so nice. And here comes the fourth question. Hope you guys are convinced with the answers, and you can take away something from Laura's talk here, Laura's answers here. And the fourth question: what was your hope as a coping mechanism during your time of COVID isolated?
Yeah, I found it scary because especially in the middle of the night, because the breathing was difficult and the pressure on the chest, and I felt very alone, because it's a fact. But it was also a realization that we are alone. In the end of the day, we are alone. So it was a realization that yes, I have people who I can call, or if I need medical help, I can call. But in the end of the day, I got this. I need to do this. It was also good because now I became very conscious of the fact that there's no time or need to try to be something else or to live for somebody else. So I started living even more authentically. It's an actual fact. Just really say, in a good way, still, of course, be nice to everybody, but not to think how I should be living or just live how I want to live. So it was a huge blessing. At the time when I felt really that I was even afraid of dying because it was very scary, of course. I was watching really funny YouTube videos, and that really helped me. That really helped me because there was nothing else to do to get out of the fear. The fear was real, obviously, because it was scary. I was sick. So lesson was huge. Blessing, I still see it as a blessing.
I must tell you, Laura, that really powerful.
Thank you so much.
And you can see that resilience where you can bounce back. And that's one of the key traits, guys, which can keep you sailing. Doesn't matter what you're going through. Doesn't matter what you're going through. Let's do something which is a gift for Laura, by the way. Laura, do you want a gift? Okay, so let me see what gift I can get for you. Let me do some magic. Let me do some magic. Okay, in our Eastern culture, in most parts of the Eastern culture, since we're talking about blessing, we actually bless by touching a hand, right? Especially in the Indian culture, we do that. And we're going to do together in this video mode. All of us ready? All of us ready? All you have to do is pick your hand like this. Pick your hand like this. Pick your hand like this. Okay, Laura, you are actually being blessed. Excuse yourself.
Okay, so Meena.
Okay. Okay, and then you can come a little closer. You can come a little closer. And everyone ready? And then slowly and steadily take your hand towards Laura. Take your hand towards Laura. And just say, we bless you, Laura. Just say, we bless you, Laura. And the third time, we bless you, Laura. Okay, wonderful. Let's clap for her. Let's clap for her. You've been a wonderful speaker. You have so much of power. And the resilience is something we have learned today from you. Okay, so if you guys like Laura's talk, thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
And if you guys Laura's talk, I would ask all of you to give a quick feedback in one word. What's that magical word? What's that magical word? It's all about those magical words. Give her quick feedback. Give her quick feedback. Remember, feedback is also gifts, right? Something really, really magical. If you can just write, okay, the chat box, write for Laura, yes, okay. Okay, I can keep seeing. Appreciate life. Laura, you're awesome. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Very nice, guys. Thank you for that appreciation, by the way. Thank you so much. Strong and determined. You are brave. Yes, indeed, you are brave. Loved your share, your resilience. Thanks, Laura. Love and care. One of your leadership qualities. Yes. Awesome, guys. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wish I could have taken a picture and sent it to you, Laura. All that. I'll do that next time. And thank you so much, Laura. A big namaste to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Laura, if guys want to keep in touch with Laura, Laura can always send her credentials here. Please feel free. Remember, this is also a networking community. If not now, you can always connect offline and seek for some guidance, seek for some ideas, and the speakers will always be ready and they will do whatever best they can. Right? By the way, this is a non-profit networking forum, guys. The trainers are not paid, the participants are not paying. It's just I think Laura's talked about love. This is more like love. Hey, East meets West, right? And we can always say a lot of things, right? Because I always feel that this is a deadly combination: Eastern philosophy and Western mindset. If you can get both of that, nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. With that, I invite my second speaker of the day. In fact, not my, but our second speaker of the day. This person is actually like a mentor to me. I've learned so many things from him when I was having a small stint in UK. This guy actually can do things so quickly, right? In fact, everything about him is so accelerated, right? There are people, let's say, for example, if I can do something in one day, he can do the same thing in 4 hours. That fast he is. And I've really learned a lot from him. He's an executive coach. He has spent so much of time in a lot of senior management roles in UK. And he's a lovely person, right? He's a people person. To me, he's a people person. I still, remember those days where no one would remember my birthdays in UK, but this person would remember. This person would give me a card. And to me, you know what? Money cannot buy all this. Money cannot buy all this. So, ladies and gentlemen, introducing Frank Rogers, the senior most executive coach, the person who is very close to me, and a person who I felt can definitely have lots of thoughts when it's a challenging time. He has been an expert in leading in challenging times. So over to you, Frank.
Thank you, Kaushik. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Yep, you can hear me. Right, thank you. Thanks for that introduction, Kaushik. Good to see you again. It's been a long time. I'm going to probably do a bit more on the practical side of companies dealing with crisis today. My background is I've had a lot of leadership experience, and I've worked with some great leaders over the years. Spent a lot of time with Gillette, with Coca-Cola, with Accenture, with HP. I've worked across many countries, many organizations, commercial, government. I lived abroad for 5-6 years. As I say, I've been lucky, I've met some very good leaders, and I've been unlucky, I've met some very bad leaders. So I always rate a leader how they deal in a crisis. I'll come back to the COVID-19 crisis because that's a bit different to anything we've ever experienced. But many companies have crisis generally anyway. It could be they've missed their profit target, the shareholders are on their back. You know, as Kaushik and I worked at HP, we went through, I think, 6 years of solid redundancies every 3 months. That could be seen to be in a constant crisis. And I watched then how people respond. I was very lucky with Gillette and Coke, had excellent leaders. HP had some good leaders and had some bad leaders. They're only driven by short-term needs and profits. The other thing I would say, a lot of companies, good companies and good leaders always work, they always think about a crisis situation happening. This is why you have business continuity plans. This is why you have disaster recovery plans. And my recent role, I've been working for a large global company since the start of March. And my role was to put COVID-19 plans in place ASAP for this organization. So when I be going through some of the leadership behaviors, I will be bringing out some of the examples from my work that I actually went through. One thing I do want to bring up during this COVID-19 crisis was a quote that always sticks in my mind, very famous English quote, which is, "Cometh the hour, cometh the man." For those who know their history, that's Winston Churchill, when basically he was fighting during the Second World War. And that's been compared to the COVID situation. A lot of leaders around the world have had to respond, just respond immediately, because this wasn't a crisis that's dealing with, we've lost profits, we're going to get taken over. It's people's lives. I mean, Laura, is quite it's inspiring to hear you've been through this. But, which is great for you to share that. I think all of us have probably got experiences. People know I've got some good friends. I work with HP. Their partners have died. Their parents have died. And it's only because they went on the London Underground, in early March. So, it is a very testing time. So one thing I want to share with you today from all my leadership experience, I've got 9 leadership behaviors that I think are relevant for the COVID-19 crisis we're in. Some of them are relevant in any leadership position, and I'll highlight the ones as we go through that I think are more relevant for the COVID-19. So the first one I'd like to bring out is a leader really needs to inspire. Okay, that to me was a very, very key thing, and included in that is having a vision that the team buy into. So an example, in the work I was in, I had 500 IT support people, basically at the 6th of March, and we had to immediately split the teams and also set up remote working as quickly as we could. I shared a vision with all the suppliers I was working with, that if someone got sick in that building, all of them would have to go home, which would mean there would be no IT service support for the whole company. So that was not a positive vision, that was a negative one. So I got their attention. So the positive one was we have to split the teams as soon as possible. To let you know, we split the team within 1 week. Some of them went home, some of them went to buildings about a mile away, others, it was something we did within 1 week to reduce the risk. So the inspiration I had was a vision of people being safe and protected, working from home, working for other locations. That was the positive vision, but also supplying the services that the company needed as well. So I had two visions, a positive and a negative. And also as part of that, you had to understand the risk very, very quickly and share it and make, as part of sense making. You've had nothing like this before. If you get it wrong, people could die. It's like a wartime situation. So that was inspiration, was the first one. The second one, behavior, is honesty. And it's not just openness and transparency. You see good leaders, they'll be open and transparent with their team, but you have to build trust very quickly. The honesty bit means you have to be honest with the teams as well, how you're feeling. This was a unique situation that everybody was basically working from home, or the people who were in the offices were, in separate buildings in the same business park. I mean, the main thing we worked on is Teams, Microsoft Teams. Other people had Zoom, some people had Skype, some people used WebEx, but that was our enabling sort of tool but you had to be honest with people how you as a leader were feeling, not just asking on them, and also telling them what was positive and what was negative. This was a very uncertain time. Where I were actually working, a couple of security guards died. This was real. People overseas, one of the key managers overseas died, and that was all shared. It wasn't just, they've gone to the hospital, they have time off. They're actually dying. So honesty, I think, is very, very important. The difficult thing during this COVID was to sustain that honesty, sustain that trust. Once you built it, you had to keep. So you had to tell the positives, the negatives, and you had to be, honest all the way through. The third one is integrity. Now, a leader should always have integrity, should always have a moral compass. They should not waver for. I mean, during COVID-19, you needed to be a bit, circumstances were changing quickly. So if you had the trust, you could probably change the story sometime depending on what was happening, in the outside world. I mean, when I look at integrity, there's sort of 5 traits that come out for every leader. One is truthfulness. I mentioned that as part of the honesty. You've got accountability for your actions. Whatever you take, you're going to be accountable for. You have loyalty. You've got self-awareness. And you've also got respectfulness for all the people you work with. So that's the third one. So the fourth one was very important for COVID-19 was pace setting. Now I mentioned to you, this is action orientated. The leader had to make sure the whole team responded quickly. As I said, in my circumstance, I had 1 week to split the teams to reduce the risk. We did that. We then worked on remote working in an organization that had 2% of people only work from an IT support perspective, working remotely. And within 4 weeks, we managed to get it to nearly 90%. The 10% had to work on site because of security reasons, but that was something we had to move very, very quickly. And in my examples, I'm glad we did it. No one was ill. There's other examples of other companies like Sky, their help desk, they had to close it down when someone got ill because they didn't move quick enough. So pace setting is very, very important in times of crisis. The fifth one is one called compassion. You need to be a compassionate leader. Leaders generally in an ideal, in a normal world have empathy. You understand people share, you understand their pain, their feelings, but during a crisis, you need to move up a level and have compassion, which includes empathy, but also includes you action orientated to do something to help the people. You had their mental health, you had their well-being, they needed looking after, and you as a leader have to have a compassionate leadership style. That was one of the key differentiators during normal leadership, in my view. Number 6 is communication. Every good leader should be able to communicate. During this crisis of COVID-19, You needed a better communication because most people were all working from home. As I say, my view is what I've picked up and learned during this, it's much better to have videos on. Luckily, the client we work with use videos most of the time, so you can actually look at someone. You can have, it's not the same as face-to-face, but it does help to have that. But the communication is absolutely key during a crisis. You need to be consistent. You need to make sure you've got regular communication in. An example, what we did in our organisation, I know other ones did in the UK, people had one-to-ones with their teams, one-to-ones with all their individual, but it wasn't always on work. It was how are you getting on at home? How is your family doing? How's your children doing? Because everyone was working at home with kids as well. And we also introduced as part of the communication, so we'd have a weekly update, we'd have individual ones-to-ones, and we also had something you got to have as a bit of fun. You've got to have communication, a bit of fun. So we introduced virtual coffees where no one talked about work. We introduced virtual quiz. We had virtual dress up. We had virtual pictures, who had the best, funniest pictures in the background. And it created, you know, it created a good sense of sort of team, but the communication channels, I said, were different ones we had to do to get that up. Number 7 is one I've called autonomous collaboration. And this one to me is particularly important during a COVID-19 crisis. Collaboration is something a leader needs to create that environment, but an autonomous one, particularly during a crisis when everyone's working at home, if you create that environment, every person is a leader. Everyone should be a leader anyway. But if you create the right environment, the autonomous collaboration, everyone will do the right thing. And we're also, you'll unleash the collective wisdom of everybody if you do that. The important thing on that, this was a big unknown. Each week, each day, new things were coming up. So you had to learn very quickly, learn fast. And on the basis of that, you needed everyone to be, to feel that the power to do the right thing. So number 8 is one every good leader should have anyway, and is decision making. The team needed the leader to be decisive. This may not be popular, and if you look around the world at the moment, some leaders are making very difficult decisions, having to lay off their team, close down their businesses. But as a leader, they expect you to be decisive, not to waver, not to be too collaborative. You have to be decisive when the time is right. And it really is like doing the right thing at the right time. And it's not always popular. Being a leader sometimes is very lonely, even if you're at home on your own. An important thing on that being decisive comes back, something I should have brought up on communication is LinkedIn. One thing you needed to do in this day and age is listen more to people. A good leader will listen anyway, but particularly during this crisis, it's listening to people. Some people won't be on video, but you have to try ways to hear how they're feeling, how are they coping with everything. So that's number 8. And the last one, number 9, is strategic, which again, every leader should have. And the reason I focused on that is, although this is difficult times, there's opportunities. The good leaders will be looking at the opportunities. An example, the work I worked on with the head of IT for the company I'm working with, when I started this, we had to move very quickly, but we had an underlying theme was what's the benefits we're going to get for the new norm of working? What can we get out of this in the future? And a good leader will be they'll have the creativity. They'll understand, what a new business model should look like, and they'll be working on that as well. So that was the sort of the 9 areas I focus on. I've tried to, so you can remember, put it into a final word, and I've got something called CHIPS, acid. CHIPS for chips, acid, ACID. Let me run through them. So the first C on CHIPS is a leader needs to be compassionate. The H is honest. The I is inspiring. The P is the pace setter. The S is strategic. That's your CHIPS part. Your acid, your A is for your autonomous collaboration. Your C is for your excellent communication. Your I is to have integrity, and the D is to be decisive. Okay?
Wonderful, wonderful, Frank. Let's clap for Frank for a wonderful talk. And I really picked a lot of things from that talk. Yes, the final one was very, it's that killer punch.
I always try and think of a word so you can remember something. I've just done that for years, but it was difficult to get.
Yeah, you know what?
Something.
Chips is good, and acid is more of maybe it's a synonym to drinks. So chips and drinks go well, by the way, and it's very easy to remember. Okay, thank you, Frank. And that's all the things which you were speaking. I can really resonate. Things like honesty, integrity, the over communication which we try to do in a crisis situation. And you just said something which was very touchy. The thing you said was how we unleash the collective wisdom, and that was the highlight according to me. And I really learned a lot from that talk. Thank you, Frank. Thank you once again. With that, guys, if you have any questions for Frank before we go for a break, any questions for Frank? Okay, so Katie, here comes the first question. Katie has joined from London. As we prepare to enter a new, okay, keeps going. Okay, as we prepare to enter a new era of work, what will change? What will change? So that's the first question, Frank.
The biggest change to me is people. I mean, people necessarily won't go to offices anymore. The work-life balance. I think with this crisis as well, people have learned the important thing is family, friends. It's not always going to work and just trying to be the best. I think that to me, the work-life balance is going to be the biggest change, and I think it's going to have a positive impact on climate change as well, which again is another big concern for everyone. But I think it will be that. I'm not expecting most people to go back to the office full time. They'll go in 1 or 2 days a week. I've been lucky enough, I've been doing that for years anyway, but there's a lot of people who travel 3 hours a day, every single day. I think them days are gone.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Frank, for answering that. There are a lot of other questions. Of course, there's some terminologies in the question. I think it's a common group. Okay, the first question, the second question, how young generation those are going to join the workforce from this year or next year are going to face challenges? So that's the question, Frank.
I think it's going to be very difficult for the young generation. Over in the UK, for example, a lot of the graduate programs have just stopped. This year they're not going to kick off again till later this year. I think they will kick off again. I think graduates will be hired, but they won't be coming to the office every day. The social side will go down, which is a shame, because I think they're your future leaders, and they need to. I mean, they'll just have to get coached and mentored different ways. As you know, Kaushik, social interaction is always a good. It's a good thing to do, even if it's through sports or, as well as work. But I think it's going to be difficult for young people, but they'll just have to. I see more startups coming because they'll be forced to just get involved in startups. The only thing I would say, and it's something that resonated, what you mentioned, Laura, is they'll just have to be resilient. You'll get more knockbacks, but just keep going. Believe, and you'll get there in the end, and someone will give you a chance.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank. There are lots of questions. I would like to read one more in the interest of time. And the question is, what is that one thing that will make the future leader stand apart?
The future leader, one thing. I was actually, when I was going through these 9, I was trying to think what are the key. It's a tough thing, the one thing. I think it's got to be inspire. That's got to be, if you've got the right vision in and they can help with that and they can inspire the rest of the team can get on with it. I mean, if you watch some good leaders I've watched over the years, I had one leader at Gillette, he just had a little notebook and he traveled the world and he made about 3 lines each meeting, but he surrounded himself by great people, and he just, you know, he said so, and off they went and did all the work. He inspired them, he listened to them, motivated them, and they went off, you know, gave them a vision, and they went and did everything. So I think that's you still need that. You need to inspire, you need to have a vision for your team to buy into. That to me is key.
Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you so much. Thank you for that wonderful talk once again. And lovely people, write that one magical word for Frank from whatever you have picked up from this talk. So once again, Frank, lovely, lovely meeting you, meeting you, by the way. And this is the best thing technology can give us, by the way. Okay, with that,
a drink.
Yes, and with that, here comes the drink. Everyone, pick up your drink, and let's do it. Toast. Let's do it. Thank you, Frank. Once again. By the way, since you're a football fan, I wore something nice for you, by the way.
I've seen it. Good team.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Thank you once again. Okay, let me read those magical words for you. Giver, inspired and perspired. Okay. Great leadership thoughts. Yes, Frank is a giver, undoubtedly. Okay. Insightful, says Shaila. Inspirational, says Suma. Wonderful, wonderful. Punchline, chips and acid. I told you, people are going to pick it. Okay, you never know. You'll be probably teaching your chips and acid theory in some class.
But don't drink the acid.
Okay, and people loved your. So people say, okay, Manvita says frankness of Frank. Frankness of Frank, obviously, you must spread loads of inspiration. And Vijay Sarthi says, thank you, Frank, for your truly as 9 chips and concept, which is much, much appreciated. Once again, guys, a big thank you to Frank. Namaste, Frank, and thank you for being a wonderful speaker today. And we really, really love this time. We really, really love this time which you spent with us. Thank you once again. Thank you once again. Okay, so everyone say, well, maybe Frank, thank you. Okay, good, good, good. With that, okay, since that we bring our third speaker of the day, and before even I invite our third speaker, I'd like you all to put in the chat box in terms of how are you coping with COVID? How are you coping with COVID, or how did you cope with COVID, and what are your plans? Okay, maybe one line from each one. One line from each one, because that way we can learn. Remember, guys, there are 53 people. If you can learn 53 things, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Okay, so working and upskilling, says Rajat. Go inward if you cannot go outward. Madit, wow, very good, very good. And Pradeep ji says, loving ahead for all possibilities, looking ahead of all possibilities, courage, creativity, and connect 4 C's there. Relishing through Zoom sessions of ILA. Thank you so much for that. Redirected myself from negative news to training myself. Wonderful, guys. A lot of people have found a lot of opportunities in this situation. So that's wonderful. Introspections, getting grounded, upscaling, self-discipline, social distancing, discovering yourself better, upgrading, says Lakshmi, develop myself, says Puneet. Wonderful, guys, wonderful. Okay, keep typing before I invite a third speaker of the day. Now, he's someone who I would say is a perfect balance between the Eastern philosophies and the Western mindset. In fact, he's done so much of coaching. He's been spending time with coaches for almost 3 decades now. 3 decades is a huge, huge period, guys. So much of experience. When you talk to him, a lot of wisdom reflects. And he's someone who's originally from India, but got settled in UK, and he's doing wonderful in his career. And it was wonderful interacting with him in the last 6-8 months. And I thought he would be the most appropriate person to talk about leading in challenging times. So without much ado, I invite our third speaker of the day, Pradeep Mistry.
Thank you, Kaushik.
Clap for Pradeep. Let's clap for Pradeep.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Thank you for a great introduction, Kaushik, and thank you for inviting me over. It's been a pleasure to speak with you over the last couple of months, especially anyway in terms of work. I am actually from Indian background. I'm not from India, but if I may share a little bit of my history, I think that actually helps to highlight where I'm coming from and where my background is. So, right, we're all on a journey, and I've also come from my own journey in life. Famous quote, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. If you don't take the first step, you're not actually embarking on any journey. This was a quote I picked up from a cathedral in England, in a lovely town called Chester. And I took a picture of this and I thought, how wonderful this is. That should reflect on every person who walks on this planet. And let your mind explore. And I think sometimes we limit ourselves to what our potentials and possibilities are. So great learnings here to start, and I've had my own, and I'm sure you all guys have had your own journeys. But my journey is, if I can take you back to where I actually start from, I'm actually in London at the moment with beautiful sunny, it's afternoon actually, beautiful sunny weather out there. We have a lovely cool breeze, so it's really pleasant to be out there. A little like Laura, you said, you know, it's beautiful in Finland. So I think we're quite practically neighbors anyway. My journey starts from, I'm a third generation British Asian. Third generation, my first generation was my grandfather who traveled from Gujarat state to East Africa. And the reason for it was during the time, the British wanted to build an East African railway and they wanted craftspeople. So my grandfather, he was a carpenter at the time, he volunteered. And he worked on the British railway, crossing 3 countries, Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya in East Africa. When he was actually completed, he was given an opportunity to go back to India or stay in Africa as a British protectorate. And he decided to stay, and he became a successful business person. He had a thriving business transporting goods from the coastal area. A lot of goods came from India. And the rest of Europe as well. So he had a thriving business owning over a dozen trucks. And they were always fully loaded in both directions. A very successful businessman. And then he passed away, I think 6 months after I was born, so I didn't actually get a chance to see him. But my father and my uncles took over the business. They ran it for as long as they could, but I think if you haven't got a leadership quality, then things fall apart. And I think this is particularly very important during COVID, that what leadership is about. And Frank has shared quite a lot of leadership skills. In any business, family business or corporate executives, you have to have leadership qualities. So eventually what had happened was disaster struck. In the 1970s, the dictator Idi Amin expelled all the Ugandan Indians out of the country. Some went back to India, some came to England, some went to Canada, some went to US, some went to New Zealand. It was a very taxing time, challenging time for a lot of people, particularly my father, my uncles, and the rest of the family. But we thrived. We started from humble beginnings, working in wool mills up in the Yorkshire Dales. It was hard work, working in a very uncomfortable environment, hot, sweaty, and dirty. And there was a lot of pollution at the time as well, because these mills worked 24 hours a day throughout the night as well. In cold weather, the smoke that came out of the chimney stayed at the ground, so it covered up. The buildings were all black in color. I actually started my education in primary school in that area. And the lesson I learned, first lesson I learned in life was from my father. And he said, if you don't study, this is where you're going to end up. And we took note. He wasn't very eloquent at explaining why you needed education. And I think like most Indian parents, they want their children to be educated. And this is the way my father explained. And he actually didn't just talk about it. One day he took time out and actually took us to the factory there. And he took us from one end where the raw material was coming through, where it was processed, it was smelly, it was dirty. And we found neighbors and relatives working there. And I think that was the time we felt it sort of sunk in that I have to do something for myself. So I went ahead and studied, went to a Loughborough, beautiful university town called Loughborough. It's very famous for engineering. It's one of the oldest ones, and it brought a lot of technologies into the world. Even now, it's on the forefront of a lot of technological advances. And it's also become very special for sports people because it has trained a lot of Olympians. Sebastian Coe, you may remember, he trained there. When the Indian cricket team come to England, they go and train at Loughborough University grounds. So it's still very active. My working career started in engineering. My first project was building a power station in Dubai. That power station is still there. I was a project coordinator. I was quite young. I just came out of my studies. And that taught me a lot of skills about finances, coordinating, discipline. And also I learned from a lot of my mentors on leadership skills at that time. A lot of my mentors were really good. They were actually embracing me, teaching me a lot of things, discipline, and how to speak with people as well. That was quite important. And from there, it took me on to different places. I worked in Romania to build a management training school there. This was a time when the Ceausescu regime fell, and they were very poor at the time. There was a lot of donation going from all over the world to them, but it was just giving them something to eat and clothes and not actually doing something. So we wanted to do something sustainable. So we set up a training college there to teach the local people IT skills, engineering skills, and all sorts of things. So we started a curriculum working on different subjects and giving them practical examples. And the wonderful people I met there, they really loved Indians there. From there, I moved on to Tajikistan. We set up another training center there for business owners. And we took professors there to lecture on marketing skills, HR, accounting skills, and production facilities. They were very hungry for knowledge. Their English was a little weak, so we also taught them English as well. And for 30 of the lucky ones, we brought them to London and took them to Cambridge University for 30 days of training with a highly paid, highly experienced professors. They're still wonderful people. Sadly, it's still a very poor country. When the Russians left, it left an infrastructure there which is not suitable for modern economies. So they're still picking up the pieces now. Then I went on to Moscow, and we went on institution building. Several projects I worked on. One of them was judges training. So they had a Soviet system of training the judges, but they wanted an exposure of Western models. So we brought about 40 trainee judges into Europe and took them onto different countries to experience the different legal systems. At the time I was involved in those projects, they also had banking reforms because they had the traditional Soviet models and they wanted to modernize it with ATMs, credit cards, automated systems. So we brought a lot of those people here to learn about the modern Western banking systems. So it's quite an exciting time for me learning through these. And I actually went through to different senior levels after that. Now, the world has changed. Back to COVID, favorite subject for everybody. What I'd like to share, I think I don't want to replicate what Laura has said and Frank has said. I'd like to bring another perspective to add value to Frank and Laura's, and which is where we are now is the new norm. It'll never go back to what it was before. So we have to prepare for the changed world. We all have to change personally, and professionally and business-wise. Couple of things I'd like to share, which is I've been sharing with a lot of people here, and some of the best management practices that I've come across in the businesses that I'm involved with is taking stock. What have you got that is of value that you used to be able to use before, but are not able to use it now because of the lockdown? And also recognizing that you have some intellectual assets You've also got physical assets. So because they're being redundant, you're not able to use it because they're closed down. How can you best use it? A lot of the businesses in the UK and Europe are actually changing their product systems and their service systems. Take an example, McLaren, the racing team, the motor manufacturer. They've actually started making breathing apparatus for the COVID operations. So they've gone into that. Some of the facilities for smaller businesses are making masks and gloves and protective overalls and things that they're producing. So there is a lot of opportunities thrown up. You just got to open up your mind and listen. Learning is happening all around you, and you have to update your business intelligence. What is actually needed out in the marketplace? What is it that you can offer in-house? Maybe modify a little bit to see how you can do that. Because the original business you were in is probably not functioning at the moment. So you have to find new innovative and creative ways of doing this thing. Now, to do this thing, something that Laura mentioned is that we as human beings are emotional creatures. When the lockdown first happened, we were all probably in a state of panic. You can't do things normally what you used to do. You couldn't step out of your front door. You couldn't go to a cafe for a cup of coffee or anything like that. You had a complete shutdown. So that puts a lot of strain on it, and it puts you through emotional phases. First is believe it. I can't believe this is happening to me. Why is it happening? Should it happen? I've never seen this happen. So you keep asking these things. It's a disbelief. And then because you can't do anything, you start getting angry with yourself, angry with everything that's around you. So that can cause a lot of frustration and anxiety, and it can affect your health and well-being. It can affect your mental health as well as your physical health. And I think, Laura, you explained quite clearly what you went through. So thank you for sharing that. Then when you can't do anything, you can't scream anymore, you can't shout anymore, you become sad because you can't do anything. And that can put you either into a depressive mode or unfunctioning mode, and you become stagnant. So you're not active anymore. So that can aggravate your mental state and your physical state. Then eventually it's a bit like a child, they're screaming and shouting, and you just hold them until they can't do anything. And that's what we are like. So we learn to accept what is there now. And then eventually when we meet up like this networking, we hear other people, we have a sense of hope. And we think, well, actually things will change. And I think one of the guaranteed things in life is change. It's inevitable. You can't stop it. So you learn to embrace the change. So going back to business itself, that's the key word here. Learn to evolve and change your business thinking, your business model. Even in the practices that you do, either it's in service industry or in production industry. And part of that is keeping virtual network going. Always be in connections with your staff and your employees, as well as your whole supply chain, because you want to know what's happening with them. If somebody's stagnant, then when market starts picking up, we want everybody to move together. So you need to be in communication with your customers and your suppliers, so you are all robust, you move together. Otherwise, you'll find that you will not be able to open up to the opportunities that come later, which is something that I'll discuss later. So it's really preparing for a changed world. There's going to be a new way of life, new way of doing things. And some of the examples, there'll be growth areas in IT, in online education, which is what we're seeing now. Online shopping will become much bigger. And then there's going to be a lot of public and health investments. So it's key to remember some of these things. And then looking ahead, you probably recognize this guy, Albert Einstein said, if you keep doing the same thing, don't expect any different results. And that's a form of insanity. And we cannot afford to think the old way. We have to think new ways of doing things. And also remember, because of the mental state, don't get yourself into a cave where you think, I'll sit here until the storm has passed. You have to remember to take positive, proactive actions. And also are some of the things that Frank has shared during the core hours is talk to your employees. Understand, pick up the phone just to even say, hello, how are you? How are you feeling today? Something that you would have probably not done. So it's really Other thing is maintain your cash flow, positive cash flow. Otherwise, you don't have a business. So thank you very much, Kaushik, and welcome to ask any questions.
Thank you, Pradeepji. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It was a wonderful, wonderful talk. And thank you, Pradeepji, one more time. And those stories were really, really influential. In fact, I never knew that we've got there's so many places. I think that was like you know, a story within stories, and loved it, loved it. Okay, so couple of questions for Pradeepji. Couple of questions. Let me read that out. I think I really feel that Pradeepji has got a different perspective, and that's going to help all of us in our journey. All flavors in the story, yes, wonderful, all flavors in the story. Repairing my body and mind. Okay, the first question, how will my financial situation change in the post-COVID era?
That's a very good question, actually. Your financial situation is entirely up to you. Things that you have in place now, things that you do now is going to have a major impact on your financial well-being. If you set up new systems and procedures, prepare for the new demands in the economy, then you'll find that you'll probably find positive financial implications to it. The key word is preparation for the future.
Okay, thank you so much. The second question, how much time do you think it will take for the pre-COVID era to come back? Probably God knows the answer, but Pradeep, you can try. Thank you for asking that question.
Again, quite rightly what you just said, Kaushik, right, is that, you know, it's uncertainty at the moment. What we have to do is live with what we have certain now, and then evolve when things change gradually, because things are changing on a daily basis. That's the only certainty, and you keep abreast of the information. Keep abreast of information from credible sources. Otherwise, you know, we have so much information, so much misinformation that it can cause a lot of confusion.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, we have more questions, but in the interest of time, I would want you to write that one magical word for Pradeep ji. One magical word. I'm sure some of you have already said. Shaila says travel history is so inspiring. Nisha says travel history is so inspiring. Yes, we've learned a lot from there. I would also let the speakers, you know, give their credentials in terms of LinkedIn, in terms of the Instagram handles, so that people can network with you in future. I would keep that optional, by the way, but I would really, really urge you to do that so that we'll all be in touch. And people, you can also do that, and we'll be certainly in touch. Okay, so traveler with tales, what a journey preparing for the changed world. All flavors covered. So let's clap for Pradeep. Wonderful, wonderful talk. And thank you so much for giving your time, Pradeep ji, and all your speakers, Frank, Laura, and Pradeep. You guys complimented so much. It looks like you guys are prepared together. There's no overlap at all. And with that, we invite someone who's so young. In fact, I met him a couple of years back, and I was always like this, right? You know, coaches and trainers has to be very, very senior, those gray hairs and all that stuff, right? And when I met him, I said, wow, these youngsters can be so, so powerful. These youngsters are actually, you know, something who picked so much in very short time. And he's none other than Dipesh. One of the things which I learned from him, which is so powerful, which has stayed with me so far, is a quote. And the quote says, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. And this is something which has changed my life, Dipesh. Thank you so much for teaching me that. And without wasting more time, I would invite our second and the last speaker, not the second, the last speaker, Dipesh Gitara. He's a musician, he's played in 10 countries, he's a coach, he's a trainer, he practices Krishna consciousness and a lot more in terms of mindfulness. He has spent so much of time with monks, learning in Himalayas, and he's a different style at all. And he's here to spend some time with us. Thank you, Dipesh. Thank you so much. We probably have 15 minutes, Dipesh. So, something if you can do it in 15 minutes so that we can at least spend the last 5 minutes in terms of questions and answers. and we'll interact with you. Over to you, Dipesh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaushik. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm grateful and humbled to be here. Good evening, all of you. I hope you guys are doing well. I've learned myself a lot from the three amazing speakers. I hope the rest of you as well have learned a lot. Okay, my name is Dipesh Shetri. I'm an international speaker, trainer, and a transformational coach. And I make sure by the time I finish, you'll be having at least 2 strategies which you can apply in your life so that you can equip yourself to lead in difficult times. Okay, before I start, let me remind you, we can do this. We have done this before. I agree it's a different variation, but we have been there, we have done this, we have survived, and this too shall pass. A crisis often brings the best within us. It often brings things that we do not realize that exist within us. It's simple in life. During the time of crisis, figure out ways so that you can empower yourself or get lost in the crisis and become the crisis itself. Because you have to remember that crisis triggers the genius within all of us. Let me take you down the history. There have been situations where ordinary people have done extraordinary things during the time of crisis that have made them immortals. For example, it was during 1861 to 1865 when US faced the worst disaster. It was during the Civil War when America was about to break into pieces, but it was Abraham Lincoln who kept America intact and made it united. And he also led to the modern economy through that. And at the same time, he signed Emancipation Proclamation during that period in 1862, which abolished slavery. That was a big boon to humankind. And that happened during the crisis period. Let me take another example of Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. He wrote his book, An Outline of Psychoanalysis, which is the Bible of psychoanalysis, during the period when he was suffering from cancer. And he was running away from the Nazi Germany during the time 1938 to 1939. And if you talk about quarantine, the first thing what I remember, it's Sir Isaac Newton. It was during the time of quarantine when he was in the countryside, he devised his theory of gravity, the laws of motion, as well as the calculus. And it all happened during the period of quarantine in 1665 during the plague, which was devastating in Europe. Similar thing happened with Shakespeare as well. He wrote his masterpieces like King Lear, Macbeth, as well as Antony and Cleopatra during the quarantine period when he was alone. If you talk throughout history, there are many instances where ordinary people have done extraordinary things and have immortalized themselves. Take the example of Victor Hugo. It was during his exile, he wrote the book La Miserable. You talk about Edvard Munch, it was during Spanish flu, he started painting. The first painting is self-portrait with Spanish flu. It was in 1918. If you talk about Frida Kahlo, the first self-portrait which she painted was during her bed rest. And if you talk about logotherapy, Viktor Emmanuel Frankl, he wrote the entire book and founded the concept of logotherapy when he was in concentration camp. So you can see that crisis harnesses the genius within us. If we are able to realize this, we will take miracles, we will make miracles. But if we do not see this, we will suffer. That's all. So let me tell you, if you want to lead during the difficult times, first thing you have to remember is you have to lead yourself. If you are in a position to lead yourself, then you can lead other people. So first thing, what I focus is on your mental health, your physical health, and emotional health. If you are mentally, emotionally, physically fit, now you're in a position to lead other people. So how does mental health, emotional health, and physical health get in the alignment? For this, I want to take a concept, what Laura just spoke, self-love. Self-love is so important. If you love yourself, definitely you'll work for your mental progress, you'll work for your physical progress, you'll work for financial progress. So self-love is so important. But let me tell you a difference between self-love and self-obsession, and self-love and getting impulsive, and self-love and self-destruction. I'll give you an example from my practical life. When it was the first phase of quarantine, for the first 3 weeks, I was on the phase, yeah, self-love. I love myself. I will do what I want to do. So during this 21 days, I used to sleep more than 12 hours a day. I stopped working out. I stopped doing everything what I used to do. I started ordering 4 or 5 times a day and eating all the junk. Because why? Because I desire that. My heart wants to eat this, eat that, all the sugary stuff, all the dopamine. I'm like, okay, why not? Because I want to do that. So I did that. But after this first phase of quarantine, I started thinking, is this self-love or self-destruction? In the long run, I started to think that if I continue this habit, I will definitely destroy myself. So suddenly something clicked, and I came to this conclusion that if something empowers you in the long run, that is self-love. If something destroys you in the long run, that is not self-love, that is self-destruction. So this was a very thin line, which I understood. And what happens when you love something or someone, you start caring about that. You start caring about that person. So if you love yourself, you have to care about yourself. How do you care about yourself? Care about your physical health. Start working out more and more. Care about your mental health. Be aware what you're reading, what kind of people you're hanging out with, what's going inside your head. Care about emotional health. If you care about all these things, that means you are loving yourself. Don't get into the delusion, which I was, that self-love is what, sleeping around for 12 hours or eating whatever you want, okay, and getting driven by impulse for the first 21 days. That's not self-love. After that, what happened? I bounced back and I started doing what I used to do. So again, since last 40 days, I'm back to my track. I'm working out 7 days a week. I'm meditating 7 days a week. Previously, I used to work out around 4 days a week before quarantine. I used to meditate 4 days a week, but now it's all 7 days. Doesn't matter Sunday or Saturday. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday or anything else. I do it compulsorily. And it's during this period, I have completed almost 80% of my book. Before that, for the last 2 years, I was writing my book and I was only able to complete 30%. 30% I had completed in the last 2 years. But now, in the last 40 days, I've reached 80%. So that's like a huge progress for me. And I'm expecting by the end of quarantine or maybe by 2 to 3 weeks, I'll be completing my book. And I have also started reading extensively and I'm bounced back to my track, what I used to do before. So first thing I want to tell you is, it starts with you. Lead yourself. Have a balance of your emotions, your mentality and your physicality. Second thing is self-love and the right kind of self-love. And once you are in this position now, once you're equipped with all these things, now you are in a position to lead the people around you, lead your tribe. So now it's a time you have to lead your tribe. And how do you lead your tribe? When you're completely physically, mentally, emotionally fine, and you know that you love yourself, you love the people around you. And this is the point where you have to lead people. And how do you lead people? You have to lead them the way you want to be led. And while leading people, you have to be very cautious with the words that you use and your tonality. Remember, this difficult time will pass, but the way you made the people around you feel, it will stay with them. It will still stay even after this pandemic situation. So while dealing with your clients or dealing with your employees or the people around you, use right kind of words and also use the right tonality. Because remember, once something hits your amygdala, the fear center, what happens? Every time you think about that person will bring some kind of feeling. And during this situation, the feeling will be always resentment, it will be sadness, it will be anger and frustration. So the next time, whenever the client or the person thinks about you, the person will start having the same kind of feeling. You're getting it? Think about that in your own life. Sometimes I've seen people, okay, when you think about some people, you start feeling good about them. Oh, they give me good vibes. Oh, it's nice. Some people, when you think about them, you feel like, no, these are not good people. I don't like. These are not my kind of tribe. So it's not vibes actually. It's your neurology. It's the information in amygdala getting stored in the form of memories, and it is manifesting, okay, once you are getting triggered by that picture of that person. So be very cautious in dealing with people and using your words and your tonality, because during the time of crisis, I know you will be frustrated, you'll be irritated. I accept that, I understand that. But even after facing all the situation, after undergoing this crisis or being irritated, being pissed off, being frustrated, still deal with the people around you in a good manner. I always use one principle which I have devised myself. So what I say to myself is, when you meet someone, always leave them in a little better condition than they were before you met them. I would like to repeat it again. When you meet someone, leave them in a little better condition than they were before you met them. So this is the third thing. You have to lead your tribe, but with love and care. The fourth thing, what you have to do during a time of crisis is that you have to reallocate all your time, your energy, your effort, and your resource in the right direction. Think about that in your own life. During the past situation in which you have faced certain crises, there might be a situation where you have overcome that. And how did you overcome that? With the same thinking, you have to come back and use the same analogy to overcome this situation as well. Now, fifth thing what I will talk about is you have to work on your self-growth and development. This is very, very important. Read the right kind of books, because it's only through the books you can understand more about people. If you want to understand about pandemics and how people live during pandemics, I would recommend one book called The Meditation. Again, it's by Marcus Aurelius, the famous Stoic philosopher. We know that in our life, we just faced a part of our life with crisis, with pandemic, just part of life. But for this guy, Marcus Aurelius, his entire life was a crisis. You should see his life. How did he become the greatest Roman emperor in the history of humanity? Because he went through crisis since his birth till his death. So I like to highlight a few things, what inspired me from the book, Meditations. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, his brother, Lucius Verus, couldn't earn his respect. His wife, Faustina the Younger, she was disloyal to him. His very good friend and his general, Avidius Cassius, he waged a war against him to become an emperor. And his son, Commodus, was completely incapable of becoming an emperor. And on top of that, it was the first time the ancient Rome faced with a devastating plague. It was called Antonine Plague, which lasted during the entire reign of Marcus Aurelius. And this plague had killed a lot of Roman legions, a lot of his soldiers. And on top of that, it was during this period where the borders of Rome was constantly under attack from Parthian Empire from the east, from German hordes from the west, and from the barbarians from the north. And all during this crisis, this man, Marcus Aurelius, he did not only crush the revolt, crush the war, win the wars, and defend his borders, but he established Rome as the most powerful empire in the world. And he was the most powerful person during the 2nd century. The main thing what we can learn from him is that it doesn't matter your mental situation, it doesn't matter your physical situation, your financial situation, your emotional situation. It doesn't matter. Irrespective of everything, still do the right thing. That's what Marcus Aurelius did. His emotions was crushed, his son, his wife, his friend, it was crushed. His mental state was crushed, everything, wars, destruction, everything. And Rome was under constant financial loss, everything was destroyed. But during this period, this man, Marcus Aurelius, he emerged as the greatest Roman emperor. So in life, when you face crisis, irrespective of your mental state, your physical state, your emotional state, your financial state, still do the right thing. And this is the right way to lead, right way to learn from the book Marcus Aurelius. Okay, so you have to learn a lot from this kind of people, because this kind of people have been there, done that, and right now these people are immortalized. Other book which you can read is, it's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Emmanuel Frankl. This also deals a lot of how to handle the crisis. So one important quote what I would like to state from Marcus Aurelius is that, okay, you have the power over your mind, but not on the external events. Understanding this, realizing this will give you inner strength. Let me repeat it. You have the power over your mind, but not on the external events. Understanding this, realizing this will give you inner strength. And it was due to this inner strength and inner peace that Marcus Aurelius handled the crisis in the best way any human has ever handled. And his book, Meditations, has inspired a lot of people. It was during Nelson Mandela, during the 27 years of prison, when people asked him, okay, how did you manage your 27 years of prison during the apartheid struggle for the racial equality in South Africa? What did Nelson Mandela say? He said, I was preparing and I was meditating on the meditations of Marcus Aurelius. That is what Nelson Mandela did. Second thing, Theodore Roosevelt, when he became the president of the United States had become superpower. It was due to his dream, and he was the follower of Marcus Aurelius. If you talk about Adam Smith, the founder of economics, the father of economics, he too studied Marcus Aurelius. If you talk about Viktor Frankl, okay, the father of logotherapy, he too studied meditation. So meditation is one of the most important book ever written in human history, which I would like all of you to read. So now, okay, the sixth thing what I would like to tell is figure out role models. Because during the time of uncertainty, what happens is right now we are scared. We don't know what will happen. So uncertainty is at its peak. But when we see people who have done that, the role models who have been there and done that and have established themselves, if we can learn from these people, we'll get the feeling of certainty. We know that there is a hope, there's a silver lining. So if we make a role model or try to figure out someone who has done that or can establish themselves, okay, and if you can get the right role model, that's the best thing. And the last thing is accept reality. Accept reality. In the words of Winston Churchill, what did he say? If you're going through hell, continue going through it. But do not stop at it. Okay? You just go through the hell and there'll be a point where you shall pass. Because he had handled one of the worst crises in United Kingdom, that was during the World War II. And it was during this period, okay, there was a concept called Stockdale paradox. And what was Stockdale paradox? Once the World War ended and people were coming back to the hometown, they were asked, how did you survive the 8 years in prison, in concentration camp? How did you survive? And what happened to the people who couldn't survive? And what kind of people were they who died? And the reply was that people who were too optimistic, that maybe I'll go home for Christmas, or maybe tomorrow I'll go my home, or maybe in the Easter I'll be home, or maybe in the Thanksgiving Day I'll be in the home. When people had too much expectation, these were the people, they lost their life. And the people who accepted the reality, that they knew that there is a hope at the end. They knew that this will come to an end because this too shall pass. Once they understood this set of people, these were the ones who survived. So Stockdale paradox is the same. You should not be in a delusional world of hope. And at the same time, you have to understand that hope at the end is very important. So this was the way the people coped up during World War II. And I would like to end in such a way that in the end, it's your call, it's your life, it's your choice. You can understand, you can learn from everyone else, but you have this free will and you can exercise your free will. Make your own choice because what you choose is right for you, irrespective of anyone says anything or not. So you have two choices, either Netflix and chill or learn a new skill, or blame on the circumstances and have an internal fight, or take charge of your life. Thank you so much, and I would like to end my talk here. I hope I've added some value to your life. Gratitude.
Let's have a big round of applause for Deepesh, our first speaker of the day. Wonderful, wonderful energy. Whenever he comes, he's like a thunderstorm in a very positive way, though. Right? And thank you, Deepesh, for that energy, that wisdom. Is so young and you really, really inspire us. You really, really inspire us. And thank you once again, guys. It's a little, we have taken 4 minutes extra today. Remember, this is a networking forum where we keep meeting every 15 days once in every 15 days. And we're going to invite a lot of international speakers and we're going to learn from them. And that way we will grow in both personal and professional life. So people have had an amazing time. I know I will invite Deepesh in the next talk once again so that you can ask him a lot of questions. But before even I close, one word, one magical word for Deepesh, one magical word. Okay, Dynamic Deepesh. Dynamic Deepesh.
Thank you.
Dipesh. Okay, awesome talk, Dipesh. Super energetic. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good. Okay, some more high energy. Wonderful. And one magical word for all our 4 speakers for tonight. Frank Rogers, Laura Delton, Pradeep Misri, and Dipesh Gitara. One word, one magical word for all our speakers. One magical word for all our speakers. Thank you all. Wisdom flows, even this guitar inspirational. Okay, thank you, Frank, Pradeep, Dipesh. An awesome talk, experiences, wisdom. Great mentors. I really loved it, guys. I really loved it. And you guys made the difference. And there's so much of learning in this session. And I love this. I would love this, again and again in 2 weeks, if you can meet like this. And I think there were some 55 or 60 participants who joined. And I'm really, really thankful to this. With that, can we all do this, guys? Can we all do this, by the way? By the way, we could not do the mocktail thing. Oh, no problem. Mocktail thing is going to be tomorrow, right? Okay, everyone can do this? Okay, let's see how flexible you are. Okay. By the way, the left hand, let's say, is east, and the right hand is west. And all I do is this, slowly. And now the east merges with the west. The Eastern philosophies and the Western mindset, ladies and gentlemen, was all for you. Hope you guys had a wonderful time. Let's do a big round of applause for all our speakers. You guys have been outstanding today, and I've been outstanding because I was not speaking. But don't worry, I will do that next time. And that big thank you to all the participants. I think people joined from London, people joined from the US, people joined from Australia, a lot of people joined from India. And I really, really happy that we had an awesome time. Have a wonderful weekend, whatever remaining time. And thank you once again, guys. Thank you once again. And I'll see you again in 2 weeks from now. Thank you, Laura. Okay, let's do this for Laura. Let's do this for Dipesh. Let's do this for Pradeep. And let's do this for Frank. Everybody do it now a little closer. We can see the scars, by the way. We can see the scars. Wonderful, guys, wonderful. Bye. Happy Sunday. Bye. Keep in touch, guys. Keep in touch with LinkedIn, with digital platforms. We'll always be in touch. Thank you, Arunji, for joining from Delhi. Thank you. A lot of people joined from Bangalore. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you, Laura, and all the best.
Thank you too.
And thank you, Dipesh. Thank you, Dipesh. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Arunji.
My gratitude.
Bye. Thank you, Nisha. Bye, Sumitra. Bye, Abhi. Bye, Dr. Vijay.
Bye, everyone. God bless.
Thank you, Dipesh. Thank you so much. Bye, Sumitra, madam. Bye, Manvita. Bye, guys. Bye, Shailesh.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And thank you, Diksha. Thank you, Tanny. And thank you, Renki, for being in the background and moderating this for us. Thank you once again. Thank you, Renki. And thank you. Bye, guys. Bye. Bye, guys. Bye.